The Forum East-West visiting Budapest. An interview with Professor Dr. Andras Inotai. Professor Inotai has been working as General Director of the Institute of World Economics of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences in Budapest between 1991 and 2011. Since 2011, Professor Inotai is Research Director of the Institute. His fields are economic integrations, EU enlargement to Central and Eastern Europe, structural changes in the world, economy in the area of globalization. Professor Inotai is being interviewed by Dr. Georg Dobrovolny, Director of the Forum East-West in Bern, Switzerland. The interview has taken place on January the 9th, 2017 in Budapest.
First, we have to try to define what do we understand under East-West relations. Is it between the old and the new member countries of the European Union? Is it between the European Union and Russia? Is it of course they cannot be separated from each other, but within the European Union, let's start with it. The new member countries have now an experience of more than 10 years of full membership in the European Union. And what we see is that their convergence to the higher European living standard shows or reveals a very differentiated picture. Some countries could catch up, some others could not. And interestingly, those who were the best pupils, the best students at the beginning, Slovenia, the Czech Republic and Hungary, they could not could not continue. Slovenia's catching up process is completely stopped. The Czech Republic made good progress, then it is stopped, but on a high level, of course, about 80% of the EU level. Slovenia is about 85%. Hungary could catch up very rapidly before the membership and in the first years of the membership, and then it stagnates. Still, the Hungarian GDP reached the pre-crisis level, 2007 level, in 2015. We needed the only country which did not suffer from the recession, from the crisis, was Poland. It is very interesting how quickly Slovakia, which was not considered to be a very good student, could catch up. This convergence problem is a very important issue because it is not only an issue of an economic issue. It is a social issue as well. It is a cultural issue as well. And when we talk about convergence, we have to see the convergence process on two levels. One is the country level, to what extent a new member country could catch up according to the EU statistics. And the other is to what extent the internal cohesion developed in the individual countries, because we see that even if the country was catching up, the internal divergence in the country itself, among the different regions, among different parts of the society, it was increasing, the divergence. So it's a very complicated process. That is one issue. The second issue is that the two main drivers of the convergence or the catching up process were international investments, foreign direct investments of large multinational companies in some of the countries. It is interesting that the Czech Republic, Hungary, and then a bit later Slovakia got a lot of foreign capital. Romania is on the way. Slovenia was very much opposing or resisting foreign capital. Poland is a mixed picture, and now the question is whether the individual countries, particularly the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, are in a position to upgrade their standing in the international or the global value chain of the international companies. We started to produce very low value added products. Can we really come to increase our participation and produce more domestic value added goods? To what extent can we become part of the technological progress? Not only imitation and transfer of technology, but also the development of new technologies. This is a crucial issue. And then the structural problem. Foreign direct investment dominates in some sectors. It is the car industry. It is to some extent the pharmaceutical industry or computer industry. But in the last period, we have seen, maybe with the exception of the Czech Republic, that a certain structural deformation, that Slovakia was always structurally a deformed country because more than 50% of the total investments and the total exports of the country are with cars and automobile. Hungary had 10 years ago a very well diversified production and export structure. Cars, electronics, pharmaceuticals, food, plastics, etc. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, and particularly in the last 5 years, we have a, I would say, unhealthy development towards a monostructure. Again, the car industry.
Which kind of monostructure? What is now the main production?
That is, today, more and more of the Hungarian exports are produced by 2 or 3 large car companies, Mercedes and Audi, first of all. Previously, we had a balanced structure, and it is, of course, it makes our dependence, our connection, our contacts much more vulnerable. In case of a global car crisis, these countries are in a very, very difficult position. How can we come back to a more balanced and more diversified structure? And the next question here is, how can we include our domestic small and medium-sized companies into export-oriented development? Yes. Because I think that in a lot of EU money would have been on paper, would have been available for the development of small and medium-sized companies. Don't ask me where this money has gone. It definitely not in the small and medium-sized companies. But export orientation of small, which means competitiveness of small and medium-sized companies, can happen in 3 different ways. One is you are exporting directly. Some companies were successful. I have some Polish, some Hungarian, some Czech companies, small companies which are really successful and competitors on the global, not only on the European market. Then the second is indirect exports, which means you are a subcontractor, a subsidiary of a large international company. You produce in Hungary, for instance, different car parts, car components for Audi or Mercedes, which will be built into the car, and then they will be exported. But it is an indirect export. You are part of it. And the third is that you make yourself competitive on the domestic market against imported goods. There are a number of markets where imported goods, mainly from the European Union, dominate. And
substitution of imports,
why can we not compete with these European Union firms from agriculture to a number of consumer goods? So this is this was one issue for further research, and this is a policy priority. The other one is to investigate to what extent and how the huge EU funds, which were really huge for all countries between 2007 and 2013, which then had to be paid out until the end of 2015, this huge modernization support had been used. How efficient or inefficient we have used this money. And what, in the case of Hungary, for the 7-year period, the EU money amounted to 23 billion euro, which is on the average, annual average, almost 3% of the Hungarian GDP. If nothing happened, nothing developed in Hungary, not in the manufacturing industry, not in agriculture, not in the service sector, not in the construction industry, on paper we should have had a 3% growth. Where is it? It did not happen. And then a large part of this money has been used in a very inefficient way, and what is particularly, I would say, shameful in the case of Hungary, and the EU should be ashamed of it as well, is that the Hungarian government is the loudest government, anti-EU government, which had been undermining basic EU values in the last years. And despite that, about 60% of the EU money coming to Hungary had been used to finance the economic background of the political mafia. Is it the real purpose of the European Union?
This is crazy. This is crazy. And so it means actually, so it goes other way around. That somebody is complaining, but he's on the winner side.
And one more issue, in this 23 billion, the agriculture, the subsidies, the direct support to the farmers is not included. I have several times very sharply criticized the common agricultural policy of the EU. It is nonsense. I know it was based on a French West German compromise at that time, but it is unsustainable from the global concerning the WTO rules, concerning third countries, and even within the EU, it is absolutely unsustainable. But about 1 billion euro per year came to Hungary in the form of direct payments to the farmers. What do you think? What do they do with this money? Where do you see agricultural modernization? It is a private money, which has been used for luxury consumption for many, or for survival for those who have a very small land. But it is automatic. You don't have to produce not even a project to get the money.
What can the EU do to change it?
The cohesion policy of the EU has to be changed. Not only in the way that a higher national co-financing will be required, which will be the case, but that most of the EU money will be directed in the future to these countries in the form of credits, maybe long-term credits, but repayable money. No. Otherwise, the money will disappear because it is practically free of charge. And the agricultural policy should definitely be skipped and liquidated. It is not, but the French,
but it takes time.
The French, the Poles, the Hungarians, they are the supporters of this program, of course. But, the EU should concentrate much more on financially supporting competitiveness and future-oriented development, technologies, research, education, and to contribute also financially to what the Scandinavians have already done, had been doing in the last years, investment into innovative societies. The European Union's global competitiveness to a large extent depends not on the production, not on the productivity, but on how future-oriented, how much capacity the societies will have to get adjusted to the new situation, to find the right answer to the challenges, external and internal challenges. It is innovation, is not a technological and not an economic criteria. Innovation is a social criteria.
So I think we stop here. Thank you very much.